into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Good evening to the Tampa Bay area and beyond, all of the Rowdies fans out there listening to RBLR Sports and our RBLR Rowdies feed. This is James Knowles coming at you with a special guest this week. Before we get there, though, as is our weekly tradition, I do need to ask, Leo, you are here with me, and how are you doing this day or two after Christmas now?
Well, a couple of days after Christmas is always weird because you're so happy spending time with family, opening presents and all that stuff. But then once it's over, you head back into work, you face the real world again, and it's like you have to wait a whole nother year once again for all those, that holiday spirit, them jolly feelings to come back to you. But besides that, man, I'm feeling good, James. How about yourself?
It's about the same place for me. I think that Christmas is obviously is an amazing weekend for me. But yeah, now that we've got to get back to the regular work schedule, get into the regular mindset, and I guess we just got to wait for the long weekend coming up here. But everybody, we do, like I said, have a special guest this week. So we're going to get to that interview quickly beforehand. I just want to say, please follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. You can like and subscribe to our podcast on all major podcast platforms. But now, to get into who we have this week, we've teased it a little bit, and I think that possibly somebody knows, somebody might know from Twitter. But we have one of the voices of the Tampa Bay Rowdies on all of their broadcasts on the USL Championship feed through ESPN Plus. It is Ryan Davis. Ryan, how you doing?
Great, guys. Thanks for having me on. I'm so excited to be on the podcast.
Well, we did want to get you on and, ask you a couple of questions. Don't want to take up too much of your time because I'm sure, like everybody, obviously, we have to get back to that normal schedule, as I was saying. So I will get us in there and, just beforehand, with your Christmas, was everything good there?
No, I actually have a confession to make right off the bat. I'm literally 2 days away from recovering from COVID-19. So the Omicron, came to visit my house, and everyone's fine. I'm fine. I was down for like about 5 days, just aches, pains, and a little bit of a headache here and there. But it actually was very mild, and I'm very thankful.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's obviously very good. I'm glad that you were getting over it. Yeah. I didn't realize that was something that you were dealing with at this time. I can imagine that making a lot of Christmas plans go,
It went completely sideways in about 1 day. Like I had so many things lined up with friends and family and so on, and we had to cancel everything. But just glad that I was able to find out and not expose myself to family and friends.
Oh yeah.
So it worked out well.
Especially now with what's supposed to be a new surge coming in with this new variant. So it's really good to hear that you're doing well, Ryan. Also, your family's doing well, and really happy to hear that you didn't expose it to any of your loved ones or anyone you care about. So that's really good to hear.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, with that intro then out of the way, we do have some questions that are related to your background and the soccer and the Rowdies and all of that stuff. So, Leo, why don't you take us from here and lead us into some of these questions that we've got lined up?
My pleasure, James. I'll start the interrogation. Quickly to start this interview, Ryan. Just give me your quick thoughts on the season.
I think it was a fantastic season. I'm a little bit try to understand. My background in soccer is has a little bit more of a world view. So my background, all of the emphasis really is on the regular season, and the playoffs is considered in every other country as a separate cup, a separate tournament. So the Rowdies proved that they were hands down the best team in the USL by winning the USL League. And that is symbolic because a 34 game or a 36 game marathon is more indicative of who the better team is than a 5 game winning streak, if you get my point. So the way the Rowdies played for the better part of 6 months really was satisfying to see. I mean, it was easy on the eyes, the brand of soccer they played. And then you talk about the discipline and you just talk about the mental fortitude of this team. I think it was the perfect season, barring the playoffs, which is the last game where everything kind of fell apart.
Mhm. No, that's a good point you made. I feel like there's a lot of times where, especially fans that are new to the Rowdies soccer team, you forget that this Rowdies team they broke records and they've won the league. But I think what fans kind of care about most is winning that final game in the playoffs, and the fact that the Rowdies didn't. There's obviously going to be those fans that say, well, was it really the perfect season? But I like how you said, in other views in regards to global soccer, there's a league and then you have side tournaments that include a playoff format. And I thought the Rowdies, like you said, had a fantastic season. They were the best team in USL. Was just unfortunate they couldn't get there all the way to the end. But I really like your input on that. But moving
Can I
forward,
just want, sorry,
yeah,
I just
go
want
ahead,
to
go
kind of
ahead.
just want to add on that, and hopefully people don't turn off their computers and radios after they hear this. But it really, it's really important to get the perspective of how hard it is to win a league, because you have to travel to different cities, different towns. It is very, very inconvenient to everyone, from travel to getting illness, injuries. So to win a league, you have so many different hurdles you have to go through, and your entire roster is exhausted. So your roster, your team, your entire team wins the league. While in a knockout, a cup tournament, we call it a cup, we just call it a cup, or playoffs, you can have a 13-man rotation and go on a 5-game win streak and win the playoffs. So I just think, as I continue to beat the drum here, we really need to start turning our attention towards the league as we go forward in this sport anyway. And I think it'll give you it'll help you put your arms more around the sport if you can really appreciate that.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And it just makes it, twice as harder trying to win a league in the middle of a pandemic.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, Ryan or James, I don't know if you guys remember, there was that one game where there was a lot of flight delays and stuff like that that caused the Rowdies, a little bit shorter amount of time. I forgot who it was against. James, if you know, feel free to interrupt me. But there was one game where they arrived really late and they had to stay up, but yet they played the game. I forgot against who, and then they ended up winning that game. So to me, it just shows the character they had throughout, the majority of the season.
If I'm
Yeah.
not
This,
mistaken, that was the game against Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, it might have been, yeah. I think it was Las Vegas.
That's just around the corner, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
But yeah, all right, Ryan. Thank you for that. And in regards to your career, you mainly called games for Rollins College, and you called, high school games here and there. But it wasn't until basically you started a family that you found, or had your life figured out, that you found a big time job that every broadcaster seeks, every broadcaster wants. You found this job here with the Rowdies as a color commentator for the team. How has it been to see yourself, reach this stage that I would imagine that you always wanted to reach?
It was like a dream. And I know it sounds cliche-ish, but it really was. I you know, when you want to achieve any sort of goal or dream, you really just have to kind of put it out there to your friends, to your family. The more you say it out loud, it's amazing how your brain and other people's brains start seeking out solutions. And that's how it works in any walk of life. And I kind of put it out there in my 40th birthday. It was always my dream to be a broadcaster, to do sports commentary. And it's only after I spoke to my wife about it. She knew that was what I always wanted. And I kind of just started to put it out there and tell my friends and my family. And people, it's amazing how people know other people. And they're like, hey, Ryan, how about you? I know someone you can speak to. And you show up and you talk to as many people as you can. And some work out and some don't. And when I say don't, that sounds very harsh. But these people have all been a part of this journey, even the don'ts. And luckily, I was a friend of a friend put me on to Drew Fellios. And Drew was calling games for Tampa Bay Rowdies. Never met Drew in my life. and he called me back. I left a message on his phone, and he called me back, and we just kind of shoot the breeze on the phone and talk for like 20 minutes. Of course, I talked his ear off, and he he's like, it's great to meet you, and my friend put me on to you, what do you want? And I just told him what I was interested in and what I was looking for. And he's like, okay, great. This is what I do right now. If anything pops up, I'll give you a call. So I'm like, okay, thanks, Drew. Thanks a lot for all your guidance and help, whatever. And then literally about 6 months later, the phone rings and Drew Fellios pops up on my phone. And I answer the phone. I'm like, hey, Drew, how you doing, And he said, guess what, we're looking for a commentator, a color analyst. Are you available? I'm like, sure, yes, please. And he's like, well, you're going to have to come down to Art Dryce, the producer's studio, and you're going to have to kind of, not really interview, but you're going to have to audition for this thing. So I'm like, okay, great. Yeah, of course. Whatever you need. And he just said, just try to get familiar with the team. Here's a couple clips of, I think, Rowdies against Charlotte, when it was the last game of the season. Neil Collins had taken over for the last 3 months, and Rowdies really were changing over the entire identity. And so I just kind of, I went over some of the notes, looked at the game, and I went into the studio and sat with Drew, and they made us call like about 30 minutes of a game, and it went really well. We just kind of, we connected, and I think I kind of showed them what I was capable of, and Art Dryce made a couple of suggestions, and we did some more takes, and until he heard what he wanted to hear, and he recorded it and sent it over to Lee, the president, and Lee had to make the decision, and Lee liked what he heard. So it really kind of turned out perfectly, to be honest.
It's incredible.
I think, yeah, it is. I think one thing to take away is, in this kind of industry, it's really who you know, not really what you know. Although what you know is really important as well too. But
sure.
That actually, yeah, it leads me to my next question. I was going to ask you the relationship you have with Drew, like to tell me what it's about, because with the games I didn't go to this season for the Rowdies, I was at home watching the game either by myself or my friends or my family. But the fact that not only hearing the crowd through TV, but also hearing you and Drew commentate the game just makes the experience watching the Rowdies game away at the stadium, it just makes it a lot better. And I'm pretty sure a lot of Rowdies fans could agree on, whenever there's away games, they go watch it at a pub or at home or with their friends. They don't have to worry about certain stuff getting boring, or if they can't really make a game at Al Lang, they have you and Drew to back them up and really give them that experience of cheering for the Rowdies. So how does that make you feel, for fans that can't go to the game? How does it make you feel that, obviously you're doing your job as a color commentator, but also do you feel like you have another job to make the game enjoyable for fans? And also talk to me about your relationship with Drew so far, after he helped you get your first gig with the Rowdies.
Sure. All right. I'll start with the first one, which is, first of all, thank you so much for saying that, Leo. I mean, to hear that feedback, it really goes a long way, and it makes Drew and I feel that it really is worthwhile as we, you turn the mic on and you call the game. It feels really good to hear that. So thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. In regards to making it more enjoyable, Drew has been in the business for like 20 something years. Jeez, the guy's old. Lord. No, I'm kidding. He's not. But anyway, he's so when I first started the quality games, I tried to do everything, just be by the book, if you know what I mean. I was trying to be, dot all the I's, cross all the T's, get everything right. And that's what everybody who's new in the business does. And that's what he's supposed to do. And then he was like, but he kind of spoke to me a couple of times on the phone, and he kind of caught my personality. I'm an outgoing person. I like to have fun. And he said, listen, man, you're doing a great job dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but please, we need to hear you. You need to come through the broadcast. And that's easier said than done. It takes a little bit of practice to kind of get your personality, to be comfortable to just get your personality out there. And but I really started to try to let my guard down and just relax and call the game and have fun with it. Because I mean, yeah, we could all talk about X's and O's, and there is a time for that. But boy, that could really bore you sometimes. And it's okay to apply the X's and O's with some fun behind it, you know. So that's the outlook I'm taking.
Mhm. Okay.
In regards to Drew and I think we really kind of made when we sat in the booth together and we sat in the studio at the beginning to do the audition. It really was an effort to try to gel, and sometimes that sounds sort of forced, but we really just tried to be easygoing and compatible, and then it just started to gel as long as we took that approach. And as soon as we took that approach to just be compatible, then it just started to really flow, and our personalities just kind of sort of gel together. And we talk about things off the field all the time, like about, how's life, how's your work going, that kind of stuff. And that really helps when it comes to going on air, because you kind of have a real background of the other person when you do start talking to the person live on air. So it
Yeah, I
makes it
think.
easier.
Yeah, I like you point out how it's easy to like you said, dot the i's and cross the t's. But I feel like you mentioned, if you don't put your own personality or really have fun with it, then you can't really expect your listeners to have fun with the game either. So the fact that you
Yeah.
really took the fact that you really took that extra step to like I said, instead of just dotting the i's and crossing the t's, you wanted to show your personality and show that you're having fun with it. And I feel like, at least for myself, if I'm speaking for the majority of Rowdies fans, I feel like that really did transition through the screen and through the people watching it in their patios, living rooms, or with their friends and families. So, terrific job on that. And
Thank
I
you.
believe, and we have a next question here, but I'm gonna let James take it over.
Yeah, I've got a couple quick questions before we get into the Rowdies specifically, and how you think they're doing. But I just wanted to expand upon your background in the game and outside of the game, and if you could give us just a quick rundown of how you ended up in the area where you could talk about soccer on a professional basis.
Okay. I grew up in a home where my dad was a professional cricketer. And a cricketer is equivalent to a baseball player in this country. So I grew up in a home, and believe me, don't get me wrong. I don't want you to get the wrong impression. This man played every sport under the sun, from squash to tennis to table tennis to, of course, cricket to soccer, badminton, whatever he can get his hands on, he played, and he played it well. So I grew up in a home where I did the exact same thing under his wing. I played every sport under the sun, enjoyed it, and tried to play my best, do my best at it. My favorite sports was soccer, football, and cricket, and table tennis. I was actually, I'm just going to throw this out there. I was actually junior champion of Trinidad and Tobago from the ages of 8 to 15 in my island in table tennis. So I was a big, so I just was a sports nut like my dad. But the difference between myself and my dad is that I really like to talk about sports more than anybody else. So I would actually commentate, and when I watched the TV, whether it was cricket or football or anything or tennis, I would listen to the commentary and I would try to repeat what they said or give my own take on it. So I would literally take the ball, my soccer ball, at 7 or 8 years old, and kick it against the wall and commentate a game like, Davis breaks away and only the keeper to beat, and he slots it in 1-0. And I start to commentate the game. So it really just was something I just love doing. If I would go to a cricket game, I would literally open my own little commentary booth. Like, we're live at the Queen's Park Oval in Trinidad and Tobago. It's the West Indies versus Australia. Beautiful sunshine, 85 degrees. Opening the bowling will be Michael Holding from the pavilion end. And I would just kind of lose myself in the commentary. So I was just very much inclined to doing that. And I'm just a kind of a nerd, to be honest.
I gotcha. Well, yeah, I think that there are a lot of people who can, who can identify with that same kind of background, at least especially in the nerdy sense. I would say I think that that's a lot more of a common a common personal trait that people
Yeah.
have. But
Yeah.
so if I can ask, then how did you end up in Florida? Did you go here for college, and did you pursue the table tennis any further? I don't know if that's even something that offers avenues beyond the youth level regularly. So I'm just not too familiar with all that kind of stuff.
No, thank you for asking, because at 15 years old, table tennis is a singular sport. It's like golf, it's like tennis, it's like what else? Like swimming, where it's you and you alone battling against one other person or yourself. And that just was not my personality. I was a more of a people person. I liked playing team sports, which is cricket, soccer, um, anything. I mean, anything, volleyball, badminton, whatever, squash, tennis, doubles. Um, so I was more inclined in playing sports like that. So I got away from table tennis and started to play other sports. And as a result, I just sort of left table tennis into the background, played a lot of cricket, played a lot of soccer. And then I got an opportunity to come away to college in Orlando, um, very, very long time ago when the world was in black and white. And it was I went to a very small school called FMU. It's Florida Metropolitan University. It's one of those where you can go to school and go to work at the same time. So it gave me an
Gotcha.
opportunity to pick up side hustles and so on. And I was very much an international student. So if the INS is hearing this, I'm in trouble. So I would work under the table, just to hustle, make some cash, and live life and try to go to school at the same time. So I came away at Orlando in 1994, went to college, and then started to work after college.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's all very cool. It's interesting that cricket, obviously doesn't really have a very big presence in the US, but I have a friend from Antigua, and I know him through soccer, but all of his family are cricket players. So, it's kind of interesting that it never really branched out, at least into Florida, considering how many people from the Caribbean often come to Florida. But yeah, we don't really see it too much.
Well, this is my avenue, guys. Thank you so much for setting me up. This is perfect. Thank you. Well, now USA Cricket has just opened up its own professional cricket league, and it started this year, 2021. It was on YouTube, and there are teams, literally 3 in Florida, Atlanta, Charlotte, going up to New York, Boston, and then you go into the center of the country, um, you know, um, Louisiana, and so on. And then you go to the western side of the country. So there are literally different conferences that opened up and formed this huge league, the USA Cricket League, that started this year, 2021. And it was actually a success. And it's going to be continue over into 2022, beginning, I believe, in the spring. So something to look forward to. So yes, cricket is bubbling just under the surface, and it's going to be a part of your everyday conversation, guys. So look out.
Gotcha. Well, if you can, and I'll turn it back over to Leo after this. But do you think that there's a possibility that you might be able to get into that commentating scene? Is that something that you might be interested in doing?
Actually, I did. On YouTube. I did about 5 games this year in the league. It was my first chance to get a chance to call cricket, which is a huge goal in my life to do, and I'm so thankful I got a chance to do it. So I called like 5 games this year, and hoping to get some more next year. But yeah, it's because the league itself it's slow in its startup. So that means the media side of it is going to be slow in its startup as well.
Gotcha. Well, that's excellent, and obviously, we wish you the best of luck with that too. But yeah, like I said, Leo, you've got a couple more questions to get through here, and then I'll finish out mine.
Ryan, my next question here is that obviously I've heard you say this in one of the games this season, but Tampa Bay, the area has transitioned into a Tampa Bay. In recent years, people sometimes they call it Tampa or Tampa Bay, whatever you want. There's no really wrong term because they're both right, in my opinion. Like my next question here for you is, how important do you think it is for the Rowdies to keep up the winning culture, not only for themselves but also the whole Tampa Bay community? Because I know the Rowdies, they're still a growing fan base. They're not the first division when it comes to professional soccer in the United States. So how important do you think it is for Rowdies to keep on winning the league, winning trophies, getting more fans involved? How important do you think that is for the community?
Really important. If
Mhm.
the Rowdies are doing everything right, the product that they are putting on the field is something any sort of casual fan can get behind. The soccer itself is attractive, the brand that they're playing, and they are winning. They not only have been winning this year, they won last year as well. They won at least the Eastern Conference playoffs anyway. They won Eastern Conference playoffs. Of course, COVID came, and then they took that same mentality, that same sort of momentum into this season, and they ran the table. I mean, they destroyed the USL in regards to the regular season. And then, of course, it all came down to that last game. So the Rowdies themselves are doing all the right things, winning. And I think what they're doing is starting from the inside and it's coming out onto the field. So Lee Cohen and Neil Collins are really working closely together, like a partnership, and building this thing strongly, like a real foundation where these high quality players, but not players that are just going to lose their head at the drop of a hat. High quality players who are high character players. So you add those two characteristics together, and you get these players that are really committed to the cause. So when you have, there's a famous quote from Neil Collins: "The sum of parts is always greater than the individual." So these quality players are coming together as a unit, all these pieces, and really becoming this force that's so hard to beat. So you have these other teams with, I would say, higher profile players. I mean, nobody really actually picks the Rowdies to win the whole thing because they don't have these high profile players other than Steven Dos Santos that came in, and only recently Seba Guenzati over the last 2 years. But everybody else seems to have all these higher profile players, but they're losing perspective that these quality pieces are coming together as a unit and really, really starting to create a winning formula and a winning culture. So I think the Rowdies are doing a great job. They're doing all that they can. I think the promotional aspect of it is the only piece that's missing. People need to know more about the Rowdies in the Tampa Bay area to understand that this is happening in your backyard. Come and be a part of it. That's the only area I see that's falling behind.
I think that area right there is also increasing, because the Rowdies were on national television in regards to twice this year, one first against Phoenix, and then earlier in the season, and then the USL Championship. So it kind of shows people in the community that, like, this is not just a team that's playing the USL. This is a team that actually wins stuff in the USL, and they're on TV representing the Tampa Bay community. So, like you said, I think it is important for people to get involved. And you talk about special players, and that's going to transition to my next question. Obviously, Tampa Bay does have the USL reigning defender for 2 years in a row now, Forrest Lasso. And like you said, we have top quality players in Steven Dos Santos and recently Sebastian Guazzaro, who's on course to break the record for top goal scorer in Rowdy's history. Are there any players that you personally you don't want to leave, but you think they might actually leave because this league is used sometimes as a stepping stone for players to be here for a couple of years and make that next jump where they want to go? So do you think that there are any players who you don't want to see leave, but might actually do so?
Um, can you guys answer this question for me? Did Seba Guenzati sign his new contract?
I have not seen anything about him just yet.
That is huge. Seba we talked about building from the inside out, right? So what you're seeing on the field has been built from on a signing table in an office, and these heads like Neil Collins, the coaching staff, and Lee have all come together and built these pieces, right? That's some from the inside coming out onto the field. Seba Guenzati is the emotional leader of this team. Make no mistakes about that. So the amount of goals that he scores comes from attitude, comes from literally making every single run and not asking for the ball to be in a better place, not asking what you can do better. He's constantly asking himself the question, how can I get better? What can I do to influence the game? And he does that by being selfless. Seba Guenzati needs to be re-signed. That's very, very, very important. Let's start there. Um, Lawrence Wyke, I believe he's on I'm not sure if he was on a 2-year contract or he's still to resign, but he's very important as well because he complements Lewis Hilton. Lewis Hilton is the orchestrator who pulls the strings. Lawrence Wyke is the energizer bunny that complements that sort of creativity next to him. You know what I mean? So the middle of the park has to be set. Now we complement the foundation. Now we complement Seba Guenzati would be the one right in front of them. So that's the spine of the team going up. Now we complement the spine with flair and creativity. You have Leo Fernandez on the left-hand side. And then Steven Dos Santos must come back. I believe he will come back. So that's really important. Other than that, Evan Lauro is the perfect goalkeeper for that back three, but I'm not sure if he's going to come back. And that's really going to hurt us. So to answer your question, if there's one player that, other than Seba Guenzati, will really concern me that we don't get back is Evan Lauro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Evan Lauro, he was one of the players who, the Rowdies announced that he won't be re-signing. So I felt like that was a big surprise. James and I had an episode where, we asked each other what was the biggest surprise, and both of our answers were Evan Lauro not getting re-signed. So,
the Evan Lauro injury, such a freak injury. Yeah. But I think you have to understand the front office, they have to literally do all the X's and O's on their end to make it worthwhile for the team. And just for me, thinking of someone in the front office, looking at Evan Lauro's injury, an ACL injury is 9 months, 8 months. Mm-hmm. There's just no way the team can put pen to paper for that. I mean, there's no way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a tough pill for James and I to swallow, but we understood the decision, the outcome. So, all we could do is really move forward with it. And I think we're in safe hands with Raiko Rivas-Arena, if you ask me.
Yep.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Raiko Rivas-Arena getting his chance, at least for now, he'll look like being the number one goalie heading into the next season.
All right. So goalkeepers are divided into two different classes. You have a defensive goalkeeper and you have an offensive goalkeeper. Evan Lauro and, sorry, can you pronounce his name one more time for me?
Raiko Rivas-Arena.
Rivas-Arena. Thank you. Rivas-Arena is the prototypical offensive goalkeeper. He's great with his feet, athletic, flexible, but his hands are not as safe as Evan Lauro. And Evan Lauro's intangible of like positioning, that kind of thing, where he's never going to be the quickest guy off of his line to block a shot or to collect a cross like Rivas-Arena, but his positioning and his marshalling of the troops back there is a sign of a defensive goalkeeper. So what we're going to see from Rivas-Arena is a completely different characteristic where he's going to be lightning quick off of his line. He's going to be able to distribute the ball from the back with his feet, which is like almost like another defender, which is going to make it really exciting back there. He has lightning reflexes. He's going to be flying up and down that goal, which is great to look at, but a completely different goalkeeper to Evan Lauro. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he complements that back three.
Yeah, I could only agree with you, Ryan. And with that being said, that's all the questions I had for you. And I'm going to allow James to continue the interrogation.
Yeah, I have a couple of kind of quick fire questions here. And, just to wrap up this lovely conversation we've had so far. But growing up, is similar to the background. What was your favorite? What were your inspirations in sport? And, they don't necessarily have to be in soccer. But if you had, a favorite club team, favorite national team, if you had favorite players growing up, favorite players now, like I said, maybe they are cricketers, maybe they are table tennis players. Who were your inspirations there on all of those different levels?
I never thought you would ask. Well, when it comes to soccer, I was a lifelong, and I am a lifelong Liverpool fan. I'm literally part of a Liverpool sort of viewers club here in Orlando, where I go to a pub in an area.
Shame on you, Ryan. Shame on you.
But I'm a Liverpool supporter, lifelong Liverpool supporter. I went to Anfield last year, so I fulfilled a dream of mine. Just before COVID struck, I saw Liverpool versus Manchester United in the cup. So I was singing these songs, I had my scarf in the air. It was just an amazing dream come true. So Liverpool fan. At that time in the 80s, when I started to follow soccer, Liverpool, and Ian Rush. He was the centre forward, and Kenny
Oh
Dalglish.
wow. Yeah.
And then on the world scene, so I was 8 years old. Yes, I'm giving you my age. 8 years old in 1982, and a player by the name of Diego Armando Maradona stepped on the scene for Argentina. And I just saw this guy at 8 years old in blue and white stripes just bamboozle everybody on the field. He just stood out. He was just better than everyone else on the field whenever he took the field. And I just looked at this guy and I was like, how can I be that guy? You know what I mean? And so I became a huge Maradona fan. I followed him throughout his career in Napoli. I watched every game in his Napoli career. And I just, again, we talk about being a nerd. I am a nerd when it comes to that stuff. But Liverpool, Maradona, Argentina, my teams and the players I followed, and lightning did strike twice, believe it or not, in the same place, and up came a diminutive left-footed genius by the name of Leo Messi from Argentina, who I got to enjoy after Maradona moved on from his career. So I have been blessed to have fantastic teams and incredible players to watch through my lifetime. So Liverpool, Argentina, Maradona, Messi. And get this, in Trinidad and Tobago, you get two feeds. You get two teams that come through on a Friday night. You either get the Laker game or the Celtic game. So if you're
Really?
into the NBA, which I did become a huge fan of, you have to pick one, left or right, Lakers or Celtics. I became a Laker fan because of the Showtime Lakers. So Magic Johnson was my huge inspiration. Just amazing to watch him pull the strings and be the floor general. So that's another inspiration in my life.
Wow, I don't have too much basketball to go off of, but
Sure.
you mentioned in King Kenny, my dad is from Scotland, and he's the reason that I'm into soccer. So
Beautiful. Lovely.
I am very well aware of Kenny Dalglish and everything that he's done, obviously. And when I personally got into following soccer more closely, it was right around the 2006 World Cup that I started, actually trying to watch games, every week or so, and watching them with my dad. And that's also around when Lionel Messi was starting to pick up for Barcelona.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember the old Fox Soccer channel here, but
Yes, I do.
yeah, I love that channel. I don't know why people, kind of talk down about it now. It's, one of the best things that I remember at the time. But anyway, they had for the 2008-2009 season, every single Barcelona game the Friday after it had played. And I watched all of those, and it was amazing.
And talk about that Barcelona team. We talk about certain teams that come through in world soccer, right? So we talk about Brazil of 1970. And that Barcelona team, like Brazil of 1970, changed the landscape of soccer, where tiki-taka came into play. Pep Guardiola went up on his throne, and he should have. And Leo Messi, well, the rest was history. What he did. And that, like Xavi and Iniesta and those guys, what they did. Incredible to watch.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. All right, my next question here is, it's a little late for Christmas because obviously Christmas was this past weekend, but I'm sure that people might still be looking for maybe some after Christmas deals. Those are obviously something that everybody looks for. So do you have any soccer related recommendations when it comes to maybe books or movies, or if you have any subscriptions you'd recommend, like for online publications or anything like that?
Yeah, Netflix has well, first of all, HBO Max had a special on, it's just called Maradona. That's it. All right. And it talked about Maradona being in Italy. So Maradona, of course, I try to give people the idea of how different Maradona was, right? So we look at Messi and Ronaldo, how they are the crowning jewel of the best teams. Maradona was literally LeBron James going into, sorry, I'm going to use a football reference. I'm sorry. Leo Messi going to Everton in England and taking Everton to win the Premiership, not once, but twice, and then winning the Champions League. That's what Maradona did. He left Barcelona and went to Napoli, which was a middle-of-the-road Italian team, never won the Serie A, which at that time was the best league in the world. And he took them to beat all the big guns, Juventus and Milan and the both Milans and Roma. and he took them, dragged them to beat the big dogs, not once, but twice. So Maradona on HBO Max. And then there's one that I did not see, but the Juventus scandal. It's on Netflix. That's one is out there. Juventus, again, Italian soccer again, riddled with bribery and racketeering and so on. So Juventus bought their titles for about 3 or 4 years in the middle 2000s, and that was discovered, and that was a huge scandal in Italy. So it's on Netflix, and the last one, the Green Street Hooligans on Netflix. It is a American kid going across to England. His parents had to go across there, and he learned what it was like to become a hooligan in English soccer. Huge, and Americans can totally wrap their mind around it because it's them going across into a foreign land, trying to fit in, and this boy getting caught up into hooliganism in English soccer.
I was waiting for you to say Ted Lasso, Ryan.
Too cliche-ish. I mean, I follow every episode and I love it to bits. But this is some real grassroots stuff. Green Street Hooligans, Maradona on HBO Max. And I'm not sure the name of it because I'm going to seek it out right now on Netflix, the Juventus scandal.
I think we have a producer's note here that is called Bad Sport. Is that the one that you were talking about?
Is that it? Bad Sport? Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because I'm going to look that up shortly and take a look.
Yeah, Eureka coming in very clutch here and letting us know. But yeah, I think my dad had the book for Green Street Hooligans, and that is obviously a very interesting story. But I've been waiting for a chance to sit down with my physically closest soccer friend and actually watch the Maradona documentary with him because he is a gigantic Messi fan. So it'd be very fitting to watch that with him and get the background to why Argentinian soccer is the way that it is and kind of the cult of personality that Maradona was before we even got to the player that he and I grew up with. But yeah, that was something that I wanted to watch with him as well.
Well, being the nerd that I am, I'm just going to jump right in there and give you a quick tidbit. Because I turned into a fan of Argentine soccer, I delved right into it, and I'm going to give you I think, a pretty quality take on the difference between Leo Messi and Diego Maradona.
Okay, I'm ready for this.
Absolutely, let's go. Diego Maradona was born, and I'm going to quote unquote, under the bridge, as they would say. So you pick the slimiest, grimiest bridge in St. Pete, and Diego Maradona was born under that bridge in Buenos Aires. And he grew up in the slummiest part of Buenos Aires, and he had no TV. He had a bunch of siblings, and he came from there and became who he was. And all of his warts, all of his shortcomings that showed up in his career, all of the addictions and so on, came from his upbringing, but all of his greatness came from that upbringing, where he would walk out onto the field and look at Germany, who had twice the team that he had, and look at them in the eye and say, there's no way you can beat me. You know what I mean? And that was Diego Maradona. And he would dominate and beat them. He would win the game, right? And that's who Maradona was. He always talked down against the establishment. He was always against the higher power. He was always against the Man Uniteds, the Real Madrids, the powers that be. So he was the underdog. That he was David that slayed Goliath. Leo Messi, he grew up in a beautiful home, excellent parents who looked after him, gave him the best that they could afford, and so on. And Messi created this incredible discipline, this fantastic discipline that brought him all of this greatness. And even at 35 years old, Maradona was upside down snorting cocaine right now at 35.
Right.
And Leo Messi is still winning Ballon d'Ors. So both of them, from their different backgrounds, had the same ability, same talent, but you can see how their greatness, Maradona can win a World Cup on his own, and while Leo Messi can win 7 Ballon d'Ors over a stretch of 15 years. So you can see there was lightning in a bottle for Maradona, and there's this incredible body of work for Leo Messi. And that's the difference between the two. And it's so hard to say who's better than who, but it's just completely different fabric of human beings wrapped up in a short, diminutive, absolutely skillful left-footed football player.
Yeah, I like that. That's very interesting. The working class background that Maradona. I definitely know that he touted that for all of his life, and it's definitely obviously in contrast to Messi, who based on his background was able to move to Barcelona so that he could live with their academy when he was 11 years old. That's obviously nearly polar opposite.
Yeah, and he's so humble, Leo Messi, right? And that humility has allowed him to be so successful, just to keep driving forward, just never looking for the camera, never looking for any sort of publicity, just going about it and enjoying his work. While Maradona, of course, coming from that background, would seek out the camera, would always, just exacerbate anything that's around him at the time,
Yeah, I gotcha. I got one more question here for you, Ryan, and then we're gonna hit on some league news, and we will get everybody out of here. But this is a very quick one. Have you ever had any trouble as the Rowdies color commentator from your home area near Orlando? Has anyone found you out? And I don't know, maybe keyed your car or anything? Hopefully no vandalism.
You know what? I've got nothing but encouragement. I have a real lovely community over in Orlando, and they're very, very supportive. So no, so far so good. And Rowdies have really got on the map in Central Florida, which is great. And so no, to answer your question, it's been all positivity, and I'm very, very thankful for that. But I'm a little nervous on the other end, though, on the west side, knowing that I am from Orlando, that I may have blunt objects thrown at me at some time or the other.
Well, we'll make sure to put in a good word if anybody's talking some trash. That much I can say.
I gotta call my peeps. Yeah.
All right. So go ahead.
I got a quick question for you guys. You guys, whether you're born into soccer or you're coming into this incredible game, what is your take on this sport? How is that? The traditions of soccer. I lay down a quick tidbit between a league and a cup. Do you guys kind of grasp that and understand what I'm trying to say, or is this the same sort of makeup, the US makeup of a tournament, the US makeup of a league? Has that impacted you in any way?
Well, I'll give my quick take on that. The way that I grew up, I was playing soccer before I was really watching it, and there are playoffs throughout that youth structure. But I was watching other sports more so than soccer before I moved into actually being, like I said, a weekend and every weekend fan and watching it then. But since then, it originally took me some time to get into the mindset of, there should be one table, and the team that is at the top of the table actually wins. And then, the Champions League is kind of the playoffs, or if you get to the World Cup past the group stages, those are playoffs. And, I've come around in all of the years since then that I think that it's definitely a better indicator of how good a team is, that they can win the league overall. And I prefer that personally. And I think that it would be better if, the USL Championship and MLS, whatever other teams, I think, the Canadian Premier League, even if they moved into a one table version, and ultimately, whatever time down the road, we're able to institute promotion and relegation. But the other thing that I see is that, we're not there yet in terms of the American crowd that comes up watching other sports, just like I did when I was younger, before I really started watching soccer all the time. So I think that it's a little more of a draw for the exterior fan, because there are a lot of people who, grow up playing soccer, and then MLS might be on their radar because of that. And then there are just a lot more people who didn't play soccer outside of, like elementary, middle school ages, and they kind of need to be drawn into the sport. And maybe MLS can do that with an exciting playoff game or something like that. I'm not entirely sure if that would be even the best draw, but I know that, there's probably a larger fan base in America outside of soccer than there is people who watch soccer but don't watch MLS. And I do know plenty of people who watch soccer but don't watch MLS. So I'm not entirely sure, what the best way to go about that is. I know that also there are a lot of there's a huge Hispanic base that watches soccer but doesn't watch MLS. And, I don't know if they would feel better if it were, a one-table league, or if it were a one-table league, and if the USL Championship were the same. I can't really say. I wish that I had a better idea of, what would be a bigger draw for them.
Right. Leo, you want to take on that?
My view is similar to James. Growing up, because I'm Mexican, so my parents obviously they've watched Mexican soccer when I was young, and over there in the Liga MX, they have the same format as MLS. They have a league, and after the league there's playoffs, 2 games, aggregate, same stuff like that. So growing up, that's really all I knew until I got into European soccer, where you have a league, then you have these side tournaments, these side cups. For instance, in England, you have the English Premier League. Then on the side, you have a playoff cup style system, and now it's the Carabao Cup. You have the FA Cup, and then as James mentioned, you have a Champions League where you have a group stage. You finish a group, and then now you head into the playoffs. So, with all that being said, I feel like I do prefer the way it's done in Europe, to where you do have a league, and I feel like right here in the US, we have an Open Cup where I think I really like that tournament, because it really, gives us a sense of what could be if there was a relegation and a promotion system, or how teams from USL can compete with teams in MLS. So I really like that tournament, but like James said, I feel like the way American soccer is right now, or just the American sport landscape right now, there's got to be conferences, there's got to be playoffs after that, and we'll get into the new league format after in a little bit here. But I really wish it was in the format of European soccer, to where you have a league, because it really shows, because soccer is from you start in August and you don't finish all the way until May, and that's a really long time. I feel like you finish on top of the table. It just shows how consistent you've been. Like you said earlier in the interview, Ryan, it just shows that you come together as a team week in and week out, and just shows how consistent you had to be, how good you had to be throughout the majority of almost a year. And that's something that's not easily done. So I feel like if that
your
could
entire roster
Exactly.
has to be part of it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like in that kind of style, it really shows how good a team is. But when you introduce the playoffs, like if the Rowdies were to get out the first round, I feel like, at least Rowdies fans won't really forget the memorable season. But those on the outside looking in will be like, oh, then they were frauds and not really that good or whatever. So it does have some risk. But personally, I would prefer the European landscape to be transitioned over here in the American soccer landscape.
And I think USL has such a great position to maybe push the envelope a little bit. And I know the amount of money that's tied up in the MLS. I get the amount of investing that's went on, and these owners won't budge. And I get it. But I could just see the USL being like, we have a little less to lose per owner. How about we take the aggregate performance over the last 5 years of each team? So your performances, or let's say you could extend it to 8 years if you want. Your performance, or the amount of points you've accumulated over the last 8 years or 5, whatever, will then decide if you stay in Division 1 or Division 2. And I don't think there's any arguments. If you have underachieved over the last 5 years, you're in Division 2 and you get to start fresh. Here's my Division 1 team, top 18, and here's my Division 2, 18, 36 teams, done. And you start from there, promotion, relegation, and you can have your USL Cup, which is Division 1 versus Division 2. And or you could have an Open Cup to go along with that, where all 4 divisions are invited to play. But I really see that being the solution. But I do understand there's a lot more X's and O's involved. It's just my naive point of view, and hopefully that can actually come to fruition.
No, I agree with everything that you said so far. I love the idea of the USL having the room to experiment, and maybe, they'll be able to suggest that as more of a marketing ploy if, there are owners who are kind of wary of that kind of thing, because I think that it creates this, if you think about the end of the Premier League season, sometimes there is a title challenge, sometimes there isn't by the end of, let's say April or May, whatever it is. And then there are other games that are still going on that are very exciting because they're challenging for spots in the European competition. They're challenging for spots to stay in the Premier League and not get relegated. That's very important, obviously, because
Absolutely,
the amount of money that they're going to lose out on if they do. I think that, if you get to the end of the league, let's say, and, the end of the 22 season, you've got Norwich versus Newcastle, and you don't have to worry about them. You don't have to worry about either of them going down. Like, how many people are going to tune in who aren't Norwich City or Newcastle United fans? So I think that creates a much bigger occasion than if it's just what would usually be the equivalent of the lower end of the table, just getting away with continuing to be the lower end of the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Picture perfect. I would love if that can actually come to pass. That would be amazing.
All right. Well, I appreciate all of that discussion that we had here, but we do have to move on really quickly to discuss the league format. And our producer actually has a question for you once we get through all of that, Ryan. But we'll get through it really quickly here. I'll start off and then I'll let you finish it here, Leo. But the USL Championship has announced its competition structure for this upcoming 2022 season. The league's 27 teams will be divided into 2 conferences, 14 in the Eastern Conference and 13 over in the Western Conference. So a 34-game regular season will be played from March 11th to October 15th. So that's awesome. I think that, we're getting back to our regular starting time in March, and then, a little earlier in October, and then the home openers and full schedule for this season will be announced in January. So we're getting close to there, but we're going to have 17 home games for everybody to attend, and hopefully we will be able to get to as many of those as possible. Every team will play each of its conference foes twice, once at home, once away. And then for Eastern Conference clubs, the remaining 8 games will be against interconference opponents. So that will be 4 home and 4 away. For Western Conference clubs, those remaining 10 games will be against a combination of interconference and intra-conference opponents. So they will have 5 at home and 5 away there. And Leo, I will let you finish out this section until we get back to Eureka's question for Ryan.
Yeah, so at the conclusion of the regular season, the top 7 teams in each conference will qualify for the championship playoffs. And the first overall seed in each conference will obviously receive a bye to the conference semifinals of the playoffs. And then from there, the bracket will be reseeded and arranged, following the quarterfinals to make sure that the first place overall seed in each conference plays against the lowest seeded remaining opponent. And it is a single elimination format, and the 2022 USL Championship final, it still has yet to determine a date when that will happen, but it will be sometime between November 10th and November 14th of next year. So getting back to Eureka's question, Ryan, he asked here, will Ryan get to go west for away games in the new format? And yeah, that's his only question. What do you say to that, Ryan?
I would love to go west and do some away games. I really would. That'd be a lot of fun. We had a discussion with somebody within the USL, and they're actually trying to figure out ways to keep this broadcast format consistent, which means away games and so on, in the upcoming future. So, you know what? Fingers crossed. Maybe I might end up out west someday to do some games for the Rowdies, and that'll be a dream come true. I would love to be able to go out on the road and just represent the Rowdies in a great format.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the game that I got to see out west last season, the final game of the season to Las Vegas, I was talking at the time, it was something that my family got me actually as a birthday gift. They bought the flights and the tickets, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was really great to go out there and, see them play in a different stadium where still the Rowdies fans were, I think, the loudest people in the stadium. But we also got to meet, you know, the supporters group out there and the electric company, as their sticker that I still have says. But yeah, it was just such lovely people. They hosted us and they, you know, we talked for a while. It was a really good experience. I loved the whole thing, and I think that it would be super cool. But
You have to give it to Rowdies fans. They're always the noisy neighbors.
oh yeah, for sure. But that will do it, I think, for everything this week. And we just want to go through, you know, the one more thing segment, which is essentially our closing point here. If you guys have any questions or any topics you want us to cover in this off season, please let us know. We've been able to do a season recap so far. And then this fantastic interview, I thought that it was really cool talking to you, Ryan. And
Thank you.
yeah, if anybody else has anything else that they would like us to cover, please tell us. We have, you know, time to fill, obviously, and we've got ideas. But if it's just stuff that, you know, we think of, maybe we're missing some stuff. So please let us know. But we also want to give a quick mention to our shop here. That is shop.rblrsports.com. Liking and subscribing to our podcast is obviously free, but if you need any new clothes coming up for this year, I know that I am going to Colorado soon. If there are any cold weather clothes, I might have to look into that. But yeah, if you do need anything along those lines, you can support this podcast further by heading over to our shop. Again, that is shop.rblrsports.com and checking out all the designs that we have got going on. So thank you, listeners, for tuning in this week. And, you know, as always, if you can, please follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter at RBLRJamesK. And Ryan, do you have any plugs that you would like to say? Where can people find you on social media?
At Ryan Davis COIR, which is Come On You Rowdies. I'm on Twitter all the time, so if anybody wants to ask a question, please feel free. And guys, thank you so much for having me on. This was such a good time. And anytime you guys want me to come on and shoot the breeze and talk some sports, let me know.
All right. I like that. I like that. And Leo, where can they get to you if they have any questions for you that we can then turn around and put Ryan's way afterwards?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at _Leo Santos __. And if you're on Instagram, I'm also there. I'm Leo Santos __. So, but once again, Ryan, thank you again for your time. You know, I really enjoyed this conversation. It was really, really interesting to see how you got to reach this stage, and you know, some of the behind the scenes that most Rowdies fans don't really get to know about, or you know, really get to know about the person who's color commentary in the game. So, thank you again, Ryan, for your time. I really do appreciate it, and I really did enjoy this conversation.
Thank you, Leo. I really appreciate that. That was awesome. Thank you.
And if you can, everyone, one more time, please like and subscribe to our podcast. We are on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and other major podcast platforms. As Ryan said earlier in the night, come on, you Rowdies.
Come on, you Rowdies.
That's right.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.